Oh, oh yeah, that's nice. Phone just gonna fall right in the middle as I'm recording. That was great. DVU day 320. Today was great, man. But I want to go ahead and get into the word. So tonight we're gonna be talking about a little passage in Matthew, and I was kind of reading it and had a new little outlook on it. So I'm gonna go ahead and read it and then share with you what I got from it. But it's Matthew chapter 7, verses 24 through 27. And the title of this little message is going to be, the wise man versus the foolish man. So there, it says, therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and puts them into practice is like a wise man who builds his house on the rock. The rains came down, and the streams rose, and the winds blew and beat against the house. Yet it did not fall, because it had a foundation on the rock. But everyone who hears these words of mine and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man who builds his house on the sand. The rains came down, the streams rose, and the wind blew and beat against the house, and it fell with a great crash. So anyway, the kind of stuff I looked at that when I was reading that, obviously it's giving a metaphor of a rain and winds and blowing on a house and where the house's foundation is. And so I was just thinking about it, and I had a new outlook on it. So anyway, we talk about our body as a temple unto God. God lives inside of us. So when you think of a temple, temple's a building. And you also can call that building a house of God. So if my body's a temple, it's the house of God. It's a house. So I look at it as, if I don't build my foundation right, in my life and put my things in order, what I should trust and what I should hope in, then, my foundation is either going to be where it needs to be or where it's not. It talks about, in the beginning, the wise man, he not only hears the word, and that's a really important point, you're hearing God's word, and you understand something, you learn something from God, you just can't learn it and have it go from one ear out the other. It needs to be practiced. You need to put it into effect. So that's the first point. When you learn something from God, when God teaches you a lesson or when He shows you something new, you need to go ahead and start doing that. You need to act out on your faith and act out on your what you've learned from Him. So that's the main point from the beginning. But then it talks about how He builds His house on a rock. He builds His house on a strong foundation. When the rains came and the winds blew, His house didn't go anywhere. It stayed strong. And it's the same thing for my life. My body's a living temple. It's a house of God. If I don't have my foundation strong in Him, if my faith and my hope and my strength is not where it needs to be, coming from God, then my foundation is going to be weak. It's not going to be where it needs to be. And like the opposite of that is a foolish man. A foolish man builds his house in the sand. And it talks about, if he builds his house in the sand, the winds blow and the rains come, and it crashes down with a big crash. And I don't want my life to go crashing down. So in order for me to do that, I don't need to build my house on the sand. And I can take the sand as either my desires, what the world wants, what my friends say is all right, what putting my hope and trust in man, in things that are not of God. If I say, oh well, I can get through this situation on my own, I don't need anybody's help, that's okay. That's good to be independent and all that. But your faith and your hope, it always needs to be in God. Your strength, that always needs to be going right back to Him. So it's moments like that, thinking, oh, I can get through this. Whether that's, maybe you get fired at your job, maybe it's a breakup, maybe it's you're just having a rough day. Instead of trying to pick yourself up, let God pick you up. Have your foundation strong, so where the rain and the wind, it's gonna blow in your life. It's blown in my life many times. And there's been many times where my house has stayed strong, and there's been many times where it's fallen down and crashed. So if your foundation's strong, those winds and rains are going to come in your life, those trials, those tough times, you're going to get through it. Your house is going to stay strong, because if your foundation is where it needs to be, then you're going to get through those moments. I look at it in another way too. It's like when we build a lighthouse, out on a coast, we put a lighthouse, we don't put it in the sand, we put it on the cliff. It's made out of rock. We put it on a strong place, because those ships are coming in, and they didn't need to know whether they're going to hit the shore or not. Foggy nights, so we put a lighthouse out there to shine the light and let them know where to go. It's the same thing as a Christian. My house is built on a strong foundation. You can look at it as a lighthouse. It's, if I'm able to shine out to others, if I'm able to direct them and be a witness to them, I can't be having a lighthouse, my temple, my house of God built on the sand, because if it is, it'll shine the light, let others know for a couple times, and then the winds are going to come, the wind's going to blow, the rain's going to fall, and my house, and my lighthouse, and my temple is just going to collapse. It's going to collapse in the sand with the waves. So yeah, I maybe reached 2 or 3 people, but I could have reached so many more. So you can look at it that way as a Christian. If I want my light to reach others, and I want to guide them in their lives and help them out and be a witness to them, then my foundation needs to be where it's at first. You can't be a witness without your foundation being strong. You can't do miracles without your foundation being strong. So that's kind of what I got from it. Hopefully you got the same thing. DVU day 320, camera fell, fumbled a couple words, music was a little loud, but I got through it. Alright? So catch you tomorrow. Y'all have a good night, and can't wait for tomorrow's DVU. Peace out.